when I see price doing this, I'm going to look for leading men or leading women candlesticks in the plot. The plot is this booger is going down to take those overnight lows out. Now, every one of these candlesticks in here is just like, so, just an extra in the cast. They're not even getting paid to be there. They're just happy to be a part of it. And that's what's being shown here with all these different kind of candlesticks. But what I'm looking for is I'm looking for the candlesticks that have the time in the plot to start pulling forth their best acting. They're going to bring out an Oscar-winning performance. Well, we're going to bring in time now. 950 to 1010 macro. You're familiar with that if you've been watching anything I've been teaching. The market creates this return back into the first presented fair value gap. We anticipate this acting as a premium array. It should repel price or keep it from going in the upper half here. It just comes up, just breezes to the low of it, and then says, no, I'm not interested. No thanks. And then what does it create here? What's that? That's a SIBI. So now that is a leading man or a leading woman candlestick. It's going to be impactful. So now we want a supporting actor or candle to come up and show how great of a candlestick this is by it coming up to half of its range. You see that? I know this analogy is, it just came to me, honestly. I don't have it written out. It literally sounds amazing for me. If I was listening to this, I would be very, very impressed. I know I got to throw these dad jokes in all the time. So here we have the consequent encroachment of the SIBI, and then we start to see the price diving lower again. But now, look closely. We're zoomed in. We have a little bit more data on the price action, and we have two relative equal lows. What makes them relative equal? The one to the right is slightly higher than the one to the left. So this is a strong candidate for a raid on that sell side algorithmically. That's how your eye is supposed to identify it, okay? It's less likely to see that immediate run. Like, for instance, say we were looking at this low and that low. This is not a relative equal low. It's not a high probability. It can eventually trade through it, but not without at least retracing back for an inefficiency above the low. In other words, something going back to the left, either an inefficiency or a short-term high. That's why I'm teaching you and have taught you for years to look for the low to have the slightly higher low to the right. If it looks like this, chances are it's going to have a deeper retracement. It wants an efficiency premium or it wants a buy-side liquidity pool. Price runs up into these lows, these highs, and fails to even get back to this old fair value gap. So it's just consolidating. Now there's a paradigm shift that takes place. When you're seeing price action doing these types of things, you're looking at all these gimmicky things like footprint, depth of market, level 2 data, volume profile, whatever it is you want to reach for, book map, heat map, whatever map. It doesn't matter, okay? Everything is available in these open, high, low, and close candlesticks. Everything's there. But what you're waiting for is the time for them to perform. But you have to know the plot. The plot is it's running for sell side. And the sell side is determined by overnight lows. So those lows are like that big magnet. And you're casting forth a vision that you're looking for this plot to pan out with Oscar-winning performances by very specific candlesticks at very specific times in the storytelling. During the macro, trades up to the low of the fair value gap. That's first presented fair value gap. And that was my dishwasher, in case you heard it. I'm not going to edit that out because it proves I'm not AI. Or am I? Price trades up to consequent encroachment during the same macro. It trades lower. No fair value gap in here except for this little tiny piece right there, which is like nothing. It's like an extra in the cast. Why is this not so important? Because we haven't even broken this low. So that right there is not important to me. If this would have broken down below that, then that would have been much more salient to the plot. But because it hasn't even taken that low out, that fair value gap is just a common gap. Why don't you use this fair value gap, ICT? See how it's starting to make sense now? Not for you newer folks because you're learning, but the folks that have been around for a long time, like, oh, this is starting to make sense. See that? No extra charge either. So we had the run on minor sell side liquidity there, and then we retrace back up into the range. Range. What's the range? See that price action right there? From the premium array it reacted to the new sell side low that was taken right here, that created that low and then started retracing. That is how you're defining your range. What? Let me say it again. The PD array that it's sold off from, my content, my concept, that turning point, because that's not support and resistance. What is that? It's the first presented fair value gap that formed after 9:30. And it's in the direction that the plot is. Sell side is going to be the target. It's going to be the draw. So we want to see this used like it does it here. Sell off. And because it can't even get into the upper portion or even trade back to the consequent encroachment of that first presented fair value gap, it's exceedingly weak. So all this in here is making it harder for someone that doesn't understand that. So the range is this right there. Now, think for a moment. You folks that like to use volume profile, you like to look for that point of control, value area high, value area low, and look at all that and look at this. Okay. When I'm looking at this range here, it's defined simply by time and my PD arrays. There's no overlap here with volume profile. There's no overlap with anything else but what I'm showing you here. Look at the midpoint. See that right there? There's a lot of price action being offered in that same range. That equilibrium price point has to have an inefficiency. Inside that range, we can see, there you go. What's that? That's a SIBI. If I take that SIBI and extend it through, look at the magic that happens. See that? Ain't that amazing? No advantage, like I said. So by having this, I'm going to take that little range box off. We can anticipate how far that shallow run below that minor sell side is going to trade right back up. And the bodies are saying, yeah, the story is still the same. All this was a plot twist. And it's causing people that don't know what they're doing to think that it's made a short-term low and it's going to rally up. But it's only going to go up to where I say it's going to go with this fair value gap. That's the equilibrium inside of this range during time distortion. That's a lot. But the veteran students knows exactly what that implies, but now you're learning how to use it. We enter another time period where price reaches up into that old SIBI. And because I'm not trading supply and demand as the folks out there use it, I'm cutting through candles. I'm going back to that one. Why did I choose that one? Because it's in the middle of the equilibrium of that range, high and low, defined by liquidity and my PD arrays. See how that is? Now I can see right away, for someone that's brand new, this is just too much and it's complicated. And how could you possibly know? Because you haven't watched price action. You don't collect the price action and go over your chart and do these types of things. When you back test, the ideal scenario is for you to go back through price action because you have the benefit of hindsight. You can look at how price moved from one level to the next, but you want to go through every single individual candlestick and make a storyline of why it did this and why it didn't do that. And you're going to see these reoccurring phenomenon that take place in price action. They will repeat in the future. These types of things repeat over and over and over again. They may be slightly different. They may have a little bit of a character twist over here and there, but generally they're doing the same thing. They're running for inefficiency. They're running for stops. That's it. Or they're waiting during time distortion. That's what you're seeing right here. New minor sell side liquidity. After reaching up into that, it sells off. Now, the bodies come up to the high of that fair value gap there, and then we leave it and then look at the bodies. They stay right at the lower quadrant of it. It's not highlighted, but you can do this on your own chart. The wick goes almost to the top, but the bodies stay in the lower half. That's the signature that you know it's getting ready to start falling. When I'm doing live candle by candle calls, when I was doing it on X, and before X was X, I did it on Twitter, and before I did that, I did it in live stream, and I did it in front of a paid premium legion of people that watch me do this stuff. And it's not something I just learned overnight. I've been doing it for a long, long time. And my students that have been with me for a long, long time, they're learning how to do it themselves too. And it's a transferable skill set. But these are characteristics that repeat over and over and over again that you will learn by listening, taking notes, and then looking for these things in your old data and then collecting them. Don't think just because you can't make money on that past move, it's not of any use to you, because that's how you're going to learn it. There's no other way